Boppin' Wrestle, released in 1986 for the Commodore 64, Apple II, DOS, and more. If that name sounds absurd to you, the game was titled Rockin' Wrestle for its European release. And since the WWF had already done the whole rockin' wrestling thing, I'm guessing they changed the name to avoid the wrath of Jerry McDivitt. Boppin' Wrestle was published by Mindscape, the same company behind Sergeant Slaughter's Mat Wars. But for this effort they took a more straightforward and less insane approach to the genre. Check out this cover. The people in the crowd are actually based on Mindscape executives, which I'm sure got a few laughs at the office Christmas party, but probably didn't inspire too many impulse buys in stores. Anyway, you play as Gorgeous Greg, based on game designer Greg Barnett. No relation to Jim, I imagine. And you have to defeat the rest of the roster for some unnamed wrestling company. So you can only choose one wrestler for single player, but there is a two-player mode where you can pick anyone. Well, at least I think so. There's no character selection screen, and it seems to work randomly. And since this is an unlicensed wrestling game from the 80s, you know what that means. Stereotypes. There's Flying Eagle, resident Native American, Hillbilly Redneck McCoy, and Angry Abdul, who, and I quote, practices his oil drilling skills by driving his opponent's head through the canvas. There is also the Missouri Breaker, an admittedly cool name. A cowboy who built up his skills throwing cows around on his ranch in Texas? So I see the Missouri Breaker. And then there's L.A. Bob, who looks like the lost member of the Village People. The manual helpfully advises, don't let Bob get behind you. Thanks for the tip. You select a one-player game and just dive into the action, no intros or anything. Weirdly, Gorgeous Greg starts at the bottom right corner of the ring, where most any other game usually puts you at the top left corner. And I hope you like the song that's playing, because you'll be hearing an awful lot of it through the rest of the game. Graphics are mixed. Playing the Commodore 64 version, you'll notice there's no crowd. You're just competing in the abyss like WrestleMania for the NES. I presume those lights are spotlights or possibly oncoming trains. On the plus side, the wrestlers are fairly detailed. Everyone wears a singlet, which is a little odd, but they sport different colors and have distinct features, so it's easy to tell who's who. What impressed me graphically were the move animations. This wasn't 2 frames for a body slam. Moves are nicely detailed, especially for a game that came out upwards of 3 decades ago. You can also come off the top rope, perform running moves, or attack a downed opponent. I dig the big wind-up proto-people's elbow everyone does. Hitting those moves can be another matter. Basically, you have to hit forward and the fire button to reach out, and then pull back to grapple with an opponent. And if you do it right, you'll place him in either an arm lock, headlock, or full Nelson, depending on your position. And from there, you can transition to other moves, and there are quite a few, like airplane spins, backbreakers, pile drivers, suplexes, and atomic drops. The bad news is, it's extremely difficult to grapple with an opponent, especially with a keyboard. I've had no luck getting by the first guy. And in the game playthroughs I've seen online, people tend to just kick their way to victory, as opposed to actually wrestling. Maybe the goofiest thing is the way you Irish whip. You have to spin the joystick around like you're doing the hammer throw in track and field. That's basically what you do to your opponent. Where did that come from? A lot of people look back fondly on this one, and there are a lot of cool features. There are some deep flaws to be sure, but for 1986 it's a pretty good effort. It's not as good as Pro Wrestling on the NES, but certainly better than a lot of games that came out later. There was a later game called Boppin' Rumble, but that just looks like a port of the beat-em-up Bad Street Brawler. But if you squint, the main character kind of resembles Hulk Hogan. Well, that's it for episode 49, and through the power of math, you probably figured out episode 50 is next. And for our special anniversary episode, we got something a little different planned. We also have some bonus videos scheduled as a thank you for 50 great episodes. So until then, thanks for watching, and remember, the winner is you.